Okay, so we just had Valentine's Day. We just went around our little circle and we talked about what we did on Valentine's Day. And I just wanted to bring that up because we're here working on our body and working on the melt method. And I think the melt method's such a beautiful way of connecting the body and the mind, but also to connect the spirit. And the spirit is a connection to something bigger. It's something bigger than ourselves. It's like the universal human experience. And, I'm kind of taking this from some notes. These are other people's words, but it does mean that we're connecting to each other right in this very moment. So as we do our melt method today, I want you to think about the connection that you have with your body. Your mind is kind of chatty, it kind of takes over. There's been people that I've recognized lately that have these big chatty brains that kind of take over their body. Like I met a guy the other day who had given himself a pretty bad golf related injury because he was working so hard to perfect this certain type of swing, right? And he didn't listen to his body, he listened to his mind. I'm going to perfect that swing at all costs. And he wasn't in a good alignment. His body just didn't have time to recover. And he gave himself a very bad injury to his spinal column. So I love that we get together and talk about the connection of mind to body. But when I think about us doing this together, I think about the connection of my spirit. And with the love that I have for all of you, I hope that it extends well beyond any holiday that Hallmark came up with for Valentine's Day. But it's really a deep love and compassion that I have for all of you. Today, we're going to talk about working on the outer hip. It's a series of exercises that Julie and I did together not too long ago, and they're really wonderful exercises. So we'll start with the softball foot treatment. We'll do the rolled up towel or the half roller calf stretch, the Katie Bowman, and then we'll come onto the floor to do our assessment. We'll turn on the deep core stabilizer by using that single leg lift on your roller, and then we'll do the upper back compression, which is the upper back glide and shear. And then from there, we're going to work on the outer hip. So I'd like to take a sec and just pull up an image of what that outer hip looks like anatomically. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So a lot of people will tell me they have a tight IT band. Does anybody ever say that in this group?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my IT band is so tight. And I just wanted you to see where that comes from. So the IT band is right here on the side of the leg, but notice that it connects to the gluteus maximus, which is your little butt cheek, and the tensor fasciae lata, which is here at the front. Okay. So when you say it's a tight IT band, it actually is coming from the glutes and this tensor fasciae lata muscle. You also have layers of muscle that are underneath the tensor fasciae lata. You have a gluteus medius and a gluteus minimus. So this is the outside of your hip. And so all of these muscles are involved with the tension that you might feel in that IT band. Just for conversation, this muscle that crosses horizontally is the piriformis. And oftentimes I'll have friends that tell me they have a tight piriformis muscle. They'll feel that right in the center of their butt cheek. And so you'll feel that today as we're working on that outer hip. So I just thought that would be interesting for you to see. I always like looking at the anatomy myself. Okay, let's stop share. And then from here, did you get that?
Yeah.
It's cool, right? So you're welcome to have this in gallery mode, which you can see everybody, or in speaker mode, and then you just see me. And I'm going to be working a little bit on the roller myself, and then I'll come back and we'll just see how that goes. So have your rolled up towel close by or your half roller close by, because we'll use that after we do our foot treatment today. And then we need our ball, which has disappeared. And let's start, excuse me, let's start by standing. Okay, great. So I'm just going to do that mini softball treatment, but I think that it's really nice to add that little bit of Katie Bowman work in through the big toe. So we'll just keep it really simple today because we have kind of a full class. My feet are hip distance apart. My arms are by my sides. And why don't you tell me, if you don't mind, is there a place in your body that feels like it's got a little pain today? Does anybody notice anything in their body?
My hips.
Hips, okay.
My left upper hip back area.
Okay. How about you, Miss Julie?
Mine is upper thoracic.
Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Upper thoracic. Okay, and let's keep that in mind and don't let me leave us without checking back with you to see if you found any relief, okay? So I'm going to just start by coming down into my feet and just noticing the weight of my body. Noticing if I have one foot that feels heavier into the floor than the other one. Asking myself if I'm forward on my toes and ball of my foot, or do I feel like I'm back on my heels? Just noticing if I'm on the outside of the foot or the inside. And then perhaps one foot feels very different than the other one, which is my scenario this morning. You could scan up the shin, think about the way the kneecap rests, noticing if it's soft or does it feel like it's pulled back. Coming up to the thigh muscle, the quadricep, going back to those glutes, and just noticing if you're holding tension there. And then from here, let's start by taking the right foot on top of the ball at position number 1, and we'll just tip our body weight from side to side, pushing the ball into the center of the foot. Then both feet are going to come down onto the floor, and I'm going to bend my knees and rotate my spine and swing my arms. And I just do this for about 20 to 30 seconds. And then come on back up when you're ready. And let's take the ball back to position number 5. So that's deeper into my foot towards my heel, but not quite on my heel. Take a focused breath and press, position point pressing, and then ease your body weight back onto the left foot. You'll go right into your glide. And then coming onto your heel. And then back into position 5. Putting a little bit more body weight on your foot. Give it a good little scratch. Martha, that was a nice piece of choreography there, ripping that sock up. Take your foot.
Oh my gosh, I can't do this with my socks on.
Just take your body weight onto your right foot and just hold that for a sec. And then let's take the ball up to the ball of the foot at position number 2, where I'm going to take the ball into the knuckle of my big toe, and I'm going to kind of pull my big toe over to the left a little bit, push down on the ball and pivot, and then ease my body weight back so that the ball is underneath the big toe mound again, and pivot. And then just do that one more time, putting pressure underneath the knuckle of the big toe, pulling the big toe open, and then bring the ball over to the pinky toe. And let's do the same thing, running the ball down the bottom of the foot from the big toe mound back towards the heel. And I'm just going to take a step forward as I do that. I'm doing that for each knuckle and long bone. So are you getting a chance to do the foot treatment?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. This is one that I think you should be doing every day if you can. So after you've done each knuckle and long bone, go ahead and do friction. So I'm just going to let the ball scribble on the bottom of my foot. And then I'm going to take the foot onto the floor and just bring the ball over to the left foot, and we'll just do the same thing. So I'm going to tip my body weight side to side, find tolerable pressure, soften through the arch. Let your nervous system get used by having that ball into the arch of the foot. And then both feet will be still. You'll bend your knees, rotate the spine, swing your arms around. And then when you're ready, come on back up. Let's do a single position point press at position number 5, pressing in to the base of the arch of the foot, and then ease your body weight onto the right foot to go right into your glide, coming onto your heel, and then back into position number 5, sending a little bit more body weight on your foot and shear, and then hold the foot still and just take a breath, and bring the ball up to position number 2, and same thing, I'm just going to put a little focused pressure on that big toe mound, and I'm going to pull that big toe a little bit towards the right and then pivot on my heel to bring the ball over to the pinky toe. So a little bit of focused weight and pull it over.
Can't we
And
do this times?
We do this 3 times. Is that what you said, Barb? Nancy, sorry.
I like to do it about 9.
Me too. It's my favorite one. Oh, I'm
too.
happy that you said that. I love that. So when you're ready, we'll move on, even though we're reluctant to do so. Taking the ball underneath position number 2 in the big toe, and then bring the ball back towards the heel. I know, I love that one. And we're just moving fluid from the ball of the foot back towards the heel. And then from here, we'll do that friction, letting your thigh shake. That's what's going to pull that fluid up. And then if you wouldn't mind, just take the ball back under the right foot one more time. Okay, so you can kick that ball out of your way. Let's just come back into the body for a moment and we'll just reassess. So you might notice that some of the tension that you were feeling in your hips, both Nancy and Martha, maybe that's changed a little bit. It did for me. I have a little tension on the right part of the lumbar spine. There's a muscle called the quadratus lumborum that connects the ribs to my pelvis. So I'm thinking that that's probably where it was. It just feels a little bit easier to stand here. I don't notice that tension. Ideally, both feet are evenly weighted to the floor. And I do feel that way. My right foot and my left foot were very different this morning, but now they feel very similar. And if I scan up the shin, think about the knees, the quadricep and the glutes, it all feels like it's a lot more neutral than it was before. Does everybody else notice that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Did that pain in your hip subside a little bit?
It
Yes.
did.
A little
Isn't
bit.
that amazing? Yeah, good. You're moving in the right direction. Good. Okay, I'm going to go on and get my towel. So ideally you'd have the half roller, but if you don't have the half roller, a towel is fine. And I'm going to position the towel so that most of it is off to the right side of my body. And I want to take my right ball of foot onto the towel, and I want to press the right heel into the floor. From here, I'm going to step forward a little bit. And it just depends if you're using the roller or the towel, how intense this is going to feel. So the towel is actually kind of nice because you can manipulate the height of it. So if you're especially tight in through the back line of tissue in the calf, then the towel is actually pretty good because you can make it a little bit lower. And what we want to do is keep our feet, knees, and hips in alignment. Oftentimes when I teach this in a group, people would be leaning forward and they would end up losing that length in the back line. So stand up nice and tall. If you're noticing that it's very intense over here on the right leg, then step back with the left foot a little bit. If you're feeling like the towel for me is very comfortable, so I'm going to go ahead and take a step forward. And ideally, I should be able to take a full stride, keeping my right heel into the floor and my left foot comes forward. And I should feel the length of the back line tissue. Can you feel that, Nancy, on your
Yeah.
towel? Okay, great. So I'm just going to hold that there. This is a Katie Bowman thing. It's very passive. It's not like you do a lot of moving or exertion to get here. Acknowledge that it can be tight and don't overdo it. So just work with your body rather than trying to force it to do something that it's not ready to do. Let's just keep it really simple. Go ahead and step back from the towel or the roller. And even with just the towel, I can still get a sense that I've lengthened the back line of tissue. Does anybody notice a difference in the way the right leg feels to the left?
Yeah.
How does it feel, Martha? Can you
It
put
just
it
feels
into
softer.
softer? I always feel like it's longer, like this right leg feels a little longer. Does anybody else notice that?
But I
Yeah.
and more weighted to the floor.
Yeah, perfect. More weighted to the floor. That's your grounding, and that's exactly what you want. So I move my towel over to the left, and I'll take the ball of my left foot onto the roller or the towel. My left heel is going to stay on the floor, and I'm going to start wherever I'm most comfortable. So you might be tempted to just start in this parallel position, but if the calf on the left is super tight, then I would just move my right foot back a little bit and take some of the pressure off. And then sneak into the calf stretch over a moment or two. Just let your body tell you when it's ready. So connecting the mind and the body and letting the body really be in charge today. And then as soon as I feel, sort of intuitively get a sense that it's lengthening, then I can step forward. I'm still pressing that left heel into the floor. And I'm just getting a little bit of length. Sometimes I'll feel it kind of crawl up the back of my leg from my calf up to my thigh. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and step back. And ideally, both feet will be very settled into the floor. How you feeling? Okay?
Feels good.
Good. Okay. So that's one that you can do, you can do that anytime. If you're going for a walk, you can find a rock or a curb, and you can do that little Katie Bowman stretch as you're going for a walk. And what you'll notice is you just get more ankle mobility as you're walking, which is better for your stride. So the next thing that I'm going to have you do is come down onto the floor and just do the rest assess. So again, connecting the mind and the body, letting the body be in charge. Go ahead and lie on your back, palms are turned up towards the ceiling, and arms and legs are nice and long. And I'll just talk you through this one. So giving yourself permission to come onto the floor, being present with your body, feeling the weight on your body, noticing if there's anything that you feel that is causing you some discomfort. Maybe you're noticing there's some pain in your back or in your neck. Maybe you feel tired today, or maybe your mind is wandering and you're already on to the next thing. Just be present. Think about the shoulder blades on the floor and just notice if the shoulder blades feel wide and heavy and flat on the mat, which would be ideal. Or are you noticing that the shoulder blades feel a little pokey into the floor today? From here, take a finger, poke it into your belly button, draw that line straight through your body, looking for the bottom of the rib cage. And ideally, the bottom of the rib cage is a mass as the thoracic spine is in flexion onto the floor. But a lot of students will notice that it feels like a big arch. So just notice where that is today. Taking your finger out of your belly button, travel down into the hips. And ideally, the gluteus muscles are resting on the floor. But you might notice that it's the back of your pelvis or your tailbone. God bless. Just notice how you feel. From here, travel down to the hamstring muscles, the backs of your thighs. And ideally, the backs of your thighs are weighted to the floor evenly, right and left. But you might notice that they're lifted away from the floor, maybe one side, maybe both. Just notice. The last thing that we'll do here is the autopilot assessment. You're dividing your body in half from right and left, top to toe. And ideally, both sides of your body are evenly weighted and they feel the same length right to left. But it sort of pops my head off sometimes when I think my right leg feels like it's reaching across the room. So just notice if you're getting that sense of a different weight or length on one side. And when you're ready, roll over into a shoulder and come on up to sitting. So from here, we're going to come on to the roller. You can choose to do the rebalance sequence on your half roller, which is lovely as you start to do more of the core work exercises. Today, we're going to do the single leg lift. And if you do have a balance issue or you really want to just work on that core, the half roller is great. Or you can choose to use your round roller, either way. So come onto your roller when you're ready, choose your weapon, come right down.
So for me, it's probably better to use the half, or does
Why
it
don't you try it? Just see how it feels today.
right side up? I mean, flat side up?
Flat side down.
Flat side down, okay.
Flat side down, but flat side down unless you're having a problem with your tailbone or there's some issue with the back of your pelvis, like your SI joints. If you've had a tailbone injury, the flat side up is really a much more comfortable position for people. But I like flat side down, Martha, because you're gonna, sorry?
I did have one, but it was in childhood, so I don't.
Okay, so it doesn't bother you now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is just acknowledge this change of shape. Let the back of your shoulders get nice and heavy. Palms are down on the floor. And I want you to start gently rocking. Of course, the flat roller, the half roller, isn't going to allow you to rock the same way, but you can still get that movement. Nice. Very nice. Beautiful. Come on back to center when you get a chance. And the hands will go on the pelvis, the heel, the hand on the hip bones, the fingertips to the pubic bone. And from here, let the low back curve drop down against the roller. Yeah, good. And you'll notice the heel of the hand gets a little lower, the tips of the fingers get a little bit higher. Acknowledge that the thoracic spine's on the roller. And then go in the opposite direction. Take yourself into the tilt. and get the back to arch away. And you'll feel the fingertips drop a little bit. The heel of the hand comes up a little bit. You'll feel that big arch in your back. And then when you're ready, come back down into the tuck position. So the low back curve is against the roller. And then with your mind's eye, travel up your spine a little bit so that you're feeling the weight of the thoracic spine against the roller. Keep the thoracic spine against the roller and just ease the low back curve away. This looks different on everybody. So for Martha, I can see the heel of the hand still feels like it's still looks a little bit low, and the tips of the fingers still seem a little high, but she might need to do that in order to feel the weight of the thoracic spine against the roller. When you're ready, reset the pelvis so that you'll feel like you have more of your tailbone. So what I usually do is just lift and lower, just a quick little reset, and see if that brings you into something that feels more neutral. From here, holding this neutral alignment, and it looks perfect, one hand to the chest, one hand to the belly, and give me 2 breaths. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, noticing both hands are moving, and notice the ribs moving up towards the ceiling, but also down against the roller. When you're ready, hands go to the sides of the rib cage, let the elbows drop down onto the floor. Take a couple of breaths here, in through the nose, out through the mouth, noticing that the hands are ideally moving out to the sides of the room, remembering that we can have an accumulation of stuck stress here that keeps the ribs kind of tacked down. And when you're ready, one hand to the throat by the collarbones and the other hand way down to the pubic bone. And now we're exploring the length of the rib cage. As you inhale, ideally both hands will move away from the midline of the body. Just notice what you feel. Sometimes people feel a little tight and sticky, either at the chest or at the hand at the pubic bone, so they don't feel that length. Again, holding that beautiful neutral alignment, bring both hands onto the belly and give me a couple of deep breaths here. So this is the 3D breath. You'll inhale to expand the rib cage in all directions, up towards the ceiling, down to the roller, from the sides of the room and the length. And on your exhale, make that noisy breath and draw that belly button into the body so that you feel that waistline get a little smaller, kind of cinches in a little bit. You can choose the HA sound, or the shh, or the s. Whatever resonates with you, ideally finding the transverse abdominis, which wraps around the body like a belt at the waistline. Once you find that contraction, turn off the noisy breath and return your breath to something that seems a little bit more normal within the autonomic nervous system. Beautiful. From here, the tips of the fingers are going to come down onto the floor. The arms are long. The elbows are off the floor. The shoulders are relaxed. You're nice and neutral. Your feet are hip distance apart. Your toes are pointing away from you. Thinking about the right foot, bring the right heel off the floor. You'll inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the core by taking that 3D breath. Pull that belly button in nice and tight. Hold that contraction and let the right ball of foot float away from the floor. So the bottom of the foot is about 1 inch away. Notice how your body responds. Does your back arch? Does your shoulders hike up? Do you shift your body weight to the left side? Do your fingertips feel like they're pressing into the floor? And go ahead and bring that right foot back down. Same thing left. The heel will lift. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to engage the core. Pull the belly button in nice and strong. Let that be the focus of your intention as you float the left ball of foot away, and notice how the body responds. Sometimes it's easier to do this on one side than the other. And when you're ready, go ahead and bring the left foot down. The hands are going to come onto the torso.
Mute.
The hands are going to come onto the torso, and we'll do the same thing. So the elbows are off the floor, and you're going to think about the right foot. The heel comes off the floor. So your hands are on your chest or your belly. No elbows on the floor. Everything's nice and, sorry, Martha, just bring your hands onto your body. There you go. And so the elbows aren't down at all. And we'll do the same thing. The heel is going to lift on the right side. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, really contract that abdominal muscle. Pull that belly button in and let the bottom of the right foot float away. Good. Just notice how you feel. See if you can get that thoracic spine to be weighted. Shoulders relax. The neck is long. The face is relaxed. And go ahead and bring the right foot down. Same thing on the left side. The heel's going to come up. You'll inhale to prepare, exhale to engage the core, and then let that ball of foot on the left just float away from the floor. And really think about the way the body responds, the core is contracting, and bring that foot back down for me. One more time. So the tips of the fingers come back down onto the floor. And this is your opportunity to just check and see if you're turning on the timing of those deep core stabilizers. So just the tips of the fingers are on the floor, the shoulders are relaxed, the collarbones are wide. Thinking about the right foot, the heel is going to lift. You'll inhale to prepare, exhale to engage that core. Shh. And then float the ball of the foot away. And just notice if it feels a little easier for you to hold yourself in this position. The right foot comes down to the floor and doing the same thing on the left. The heel lifts on the left side. Inhale to prepare, exhale to engage that core. Once that core is engaged, go ahead and float that foot. Beautiful. Nice. Go ahead and bring that foot back down onto the floor. Did it feel easier this third time? Yeah, it looked easier. Go ahead and gently rock your body from side to side to see how you feel.
Sorry, my chimes are going.
That's okay. When you're ready to come back to center, lengthen a leg and slither off the roller, coming onto your back for a quick reassessment. Arms and legs are nice and long. Palms are turned up towards the ceiling, coming back into your body. So if you notice that the shoulder blades were feeling a little pokey into the floor, do they feel like they're wider and flatter this morning? Beautiful, great. Take a finger, poke it into your belly button, draw that line through your body, and just notice if the ribs just feel heavier to the floor. If you noticed before they were arched away, do they feel a little heavier now? Nancy's nodding her head. Yeah, good, excellent. From here, take your finger out of your belly button, travel down into your hips, and notice if the butt cheeks are weighted to the floor. Does anybody feel that sensation this morning? More butt, less tailbone, less back of pelvis? Beautiful. And then from here, ideally, the back of the legs at the hamstring are weighted to the floor. And then the last check is that autopilot assessment. If you divide your body in half right to left, are you noticing that you feel a little bit more evenly weighted from side to side? That would be awesome. And when you're ready, roll over into a shoulder and come on up to sitting. Okay. So Martha, how did you feel? I think you're on mute, but how did you feel with the half roller instead of the round roller?
Oh, it was a lot easier to stabilize.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. So you're not fighting to stay on the roller.
Yeah.
And so these are my words, not yours, but when you're not fighting to stay on the roller, you actually can get a little deeper into that core contraction, I think, because you're not thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fall off. Right? Okay, well, we're definitely going to use the round roller for the next one. This is upper back glide and shear. And this is one that people that have sort of chronic hyperextension can have a hard time with. And so I'm kind of glad that it's us today because we have a few people that are in our group that have a hard time with this one. So this is a really good one to know how to do and work through, but it can be kind of tricky. Okay, so I'm going to join you for this one because I think sometimes my cueing is better if I'm actually doing it with you. So I'm going to take the roller behind me, make sure I don't crash into anything. The roller is kind of low. It's not on my shoulder blades right now. It's towards the bottom of my rib cage, and my hands are going to go back behind my head. I'm going to let my head rest heavy in my hands. I'm going to pull my belly button in on an exhale and pick my hips up, and I'm going to bend my knees a little bit, and it moves the roller to my shoulder blades. From here, I'm going to tuck my pelvis. So I'm really thinking about pulling the pubic bone up towards the ceiling. And I'm going to hold that tuck position as I let my pelvis come back down onto the floor. And I think about, how does my body feel in this position? I really feel like I'm really on the back of my pelvis. The back of my pelvis is weighted to the floor as opposed to my low back curve, which would be ideal. From here, I'm going to inhale to prepare, and on my exhale, I'm going to engage my core, and I'm going to let the back of my shoulders travel to the other side of the roller. And I want an honest assessment of the extension of my thoracic spine. Now, I could go into a deeper extension if I arched my back and lifted my chin, which is not what I want to do. I want to keep that tuck and keep my head in neutral and just let the back of my shoulders feel like they're coming over the other side of the roller. So this is really as far back as I can go without any compensation of arching of the back and lifting of the chin. I'm going to acknowledge how far back I went. I'm going to inhale to stay. And on my exhale, I'm going to keep my eyes glued to the ceiling and I'm going to go into a side bend. No shifting of the hips, no arching of my back. And this is just as far over to the right as I can go. And I'm noticing it's just very tight over here on the left side of my body. I'm going to take a breath in and notice the expansion of the ribs on the left side. And when you're ready, exhale to come back to center. A quick little inhale to stay. And on your exhale, engage the core again. And side bend. This time I'm going to my left. And just notice you'll feel that pulling sensation on the side of your body. And take a breath in and just notice if you're getting any expansion in through the rib cage on the right side. Inhale to stay and exhale, coming back to center. From here, I'm going to take my elbows and I'm going to bring them up towards the ceiling. And this helps present my spine to the roller. I'm still in this tucked position. I'm going to inhale to stay, exhale to engage my core, and push my feet into the floor so that my hips come off of the ground. I'm going to move my back against the roller. And this is really happening through the legs as I push my feet into the floor and then bend my knees a little bit. So pushing my feet moves the roller down my back a little bit, and then bending my knees will pull it back up. Just stay on the tissue in between the two shoulder blades. You might notice that as you move your body against the roller, that you're feeling a little tension or a little discomfort. I'm going to start to go up against that edge of discomfort called the barrier, and I'm going to go smaller and smaller until I stop. Still holding that tuck, I've stopped this movement, and I'm going to bring my back down against the floor. I'm already noticing that my low back curve is coming down onto the floor, which means that I'm getting a little bit more mobility through my spine. From here, I'm going to scratch my back against the roller by taking myself into that side bend. Avoid the temptation to shift your hips. Let your eye gaze stay more towards your knees because you're in flexion. Keeping your upper back flexed forward rather than extending over the back of the roller. And come on back to center. Inhale to stay, exhale to push your feet into the floor. And now I want you to move the roller a little bit lower. So that means I'm pushing my feet into the floor. My legs are lengthening a little bit. And now I'm more towards the bottom of my rib cage. And I'm going to do that same movement, just gliding against the roller. Still holding the tuck. Eye gaze is more over my knees than towards the ceiling. Smaller and smaller until you stop. Settle your hips down onto the floor. Holding your tuck position, scratch your back against the roller. This is our shear technique, breaking up the dry and viscous fluid that accumulates in the muscles of the back. Coming back to center when you get a chance. Inhale to stay, exhale to engage the core, pick your hips up off the floor. And now I'm going to walk my feet a little bit away from the roller so I can move the roller higher against my back. I'm above my shoulder blades. I'm not in my neck space, but I'm really high. I try to come into flexion here. So my eye gaze is just above my knees, coming across the room. And I'm gliding, I'm pushing the roller up and down, looking for trouble. Easy to find. Go smaller and smaller until you stop. Holding that tuck position, bring your hips back down onto the mat, and then come back into your shear. When you're ready, come on back to center. And I'm going to have you exhale to engage the core and pick your hips up. We're going to rinse the back by moving the roller down towards the bottom of the rib cage. My legs get lengthened out a little bit. And then I'm going to bring my knees back to the ceiling to bring the roller nice and high on my back. I'm still holding flexion. So ideally, you're looking more towards the thighs, and not because you've dropped your chin, but because you're flexing through the rib cage. So I do that rinse about 3 or 4 times, and then I find it helpful to just come off the roller for a second. Sometimes when we do this in a group, people are rolling out the room or their shirts are falling off. So we just take a moment and just come back, because I'm going to ask you to come into that same start position where the roller was underneath the shoulder blades, more towards the bottom of the rib cage. The hands go back behind the head. Let the head be nice and heavy in your hands. Exhale to engage your core. Push your feet into the floor to pick your hips up. Bend your knees a little bit more so that the roller now finds the shoulder blade. So it's exactly the way that we started. I'm going to tuck my pelvis, a big strong tuck, pulling the pubic bone up towards the ceiling. Hold your tuck and return your pelvis to the floor. So I told you before that I really felt like I was on the back of my pelvis, and now I'm in my low back curve on the floor. So I already know that I'm getting more mobility through my spine. Elbows are relaxed. They don't have to be poking up towards the ceiling. I'm going to inhale to stay, exhale to engage my core, and then allow the back of your shoulders to come over the other side of the roller, holding your tuck and keeping the chin and head in its neutral position. Just feeling the length that you can achieve here. So ideally, you're noticing that you're coming further back over the roller. Inhale to stay, exhale into a side bend. Let's go to the right. And just see if you can get a little further over to the right side. I'm going to inhale to stay, and I'm going to exhale to engage my core one more time. And let's see if you can go just a little bit more. You'll feel that length along the left side of the body. Hold this position, take a breath in, and see if you notice the ribs expand a little bit more on this left side. When you're ready, exhale, come to center. Inhale to stay. Exhale to side bend left. Again, eye gaze towards the ceiling. And then a nice big inhale over on the right side, just noting the expansion of the rib cage and noticing how far over to the right you can go. You could take another breath and just come a little bit deeper into that side bend. And then when you're ready, come on back to center. So you could come off the roller and just do another quick rest assessment and see how you feel. There is an assessment, of course, built into upper back glide and shear, so you don't necessarily have to, but just lie on your back one more time and just see how you feel. So Nancy, are you noticing that the thoracic spine feels like it's a little bit more flexed into the floor, just a little bit heavier? I think I muted you, so let's, oh, you know what, I've muted you, so don't worry about it. You can catch up with us later. Let's see, Martha's unmuted. How about you, Martha? You feeling like you've got a little bit more flexion?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you take your roller underneath your bent knees and just work on that for a little bit. Take the roller underneath the back of your pelvis.
Right.
Right. And so see if you can get the ribs to come down a little bit. So Martha's one of my my peeps that has a little hyperextension in the upper back. And so upper back glide and shear can sort of aggravate that and bring her back into that position. So if she just comes in here, she could give the ribs a chance to come into flexion. Does that make sense, Martha?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. And Julie's doing it too. That's fine. Oops. Shh, shh, shh. No, no, no. Shh, 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 shh. Okay.
Is that huge Great Dane?
It's like Doberman.
Doberman?
Did you watch the replay from last week? She attacked me during the during my recording of our class. Okay, ladies, when you're ready, go ahead and take that roller out from underneath you if that's what you're doing. Come on back onto the floor without it. And we're going to move on to a side lying leg lift series that's a part of your neuro strength training. So what I'd like you to do is roll over onto your side. Let's see, let's have everybody be on their left side. So their right leg is on the top. And you can either have your half roller or you could have a towel close by so that you can rest your head on your roller. Okay. So we talked, so I showed you at the beginning of class that we have this collection of muscles on the outer hip, and these muscles can get very tight when you do a lot of sitting. And so to lengthen them out can be kind of a chore. So we're going to work on that a little bit today with a little bit of neuro strength training. I'd like you to have your right hand on your waist here on the right side. You're going to take your bottom knee and you're going to bend that so it's about a 90-degree angle. And your shin, if you were laying on a mat, would be perpendicular to the mat, would be parallel rather to the mat. Okay, from here you're going to do three things. It's going to be a tilt, a stack, and a roll. The tilt really happens when you take your butt and you just bring it back behind you. It's not hyperextending through the chest. It's just taking your butt and moving it back a little bit, just so that you have a little curve in your back. Now, we already said that Martha has a tendency to be in hyperextension. So I'd like you to take your butt, Martha, and maybe pull it forward a little bit so that you feel like you're more in a tuck than a tilt. And then you'll probably be just right. Does that make sense, Martha, when I say that? Okay, good. So from here, the next thing that we're going to do is called the stack. This top leg is going to pull away from you so that you feel like you're getting greater length into that leg. So my toes are just pulling to the other end of the room. And what that does is it really creates a more neutral pelvic triangle, my hip bones to my pubic bone. And it also gives you a little bit of a space at your waistline. The next thing you're going to do is roll forward. So I'm just going to take shoulder to hip and roll myself forward. And that's going to give me a little bit more room into the SI joint. Keeping this right leg on the floor just for a moment, we're going to take a couple of breaths in and out to engage the core. So every time I exhale, I want to feel the muscles tighten underneath my right hand. Let's do it one more time. And then I want you to hold on to that core contraction. So now the muscles are engaged underneath my hand. I'm going to exhale again, nice and deep, and hold that contraction. Lengthening through the right leg, I'm going to lift this right leg as high as my hip. The leg is going to be internally rotated, so my toes are going to seem like they're coming a little bit more towards the floor. And Julie, this leg is nice and straight, so the top leg's super straight. Good, 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 good. Yeah, there you go. And if you want to start that again, you're more than welcome to if you feel like you need to. So let's just let Julie start that one more time. So my leg is just going to come right down to the floor, Jules. Let that leg just come right down to the floor. Let's just start it one more time. So exhale when you're ready to engage the core, and then I'm just going to lift this leg up to the height of my hip. Beautiful. There you go. Perfect. Good. So just check. You're tilting. So you have a little bit of a curve in the low back. You're stacking by taking this leg nice and long, and you're rolling forward a little bit. The last thing that I want you to do is take this right leg and actually move it back behind you a little bit so that you're getting more into the glutes. And this is also going to give you a little bit more length through the outer hip. You're going to inhale to prepare for movement. And on your exhale, you're going to externally rotate this top leg. Don't move your hips. Don't move your rib. You're just moving inside of that hip socket. You're going to inhale to stay. Exhale to internally rotate the leg. The leg is a little bit back behind you. The leg is straight, Julie. It's not bent. Inhale to stay, exhale and externally rotate. The leg is nice and straight. Inhale to stay, exhale to internally rotate. So you should just notice that there's some tension and contraction in that upper hip. Inhale to stay, exhale to externally rotate. Inhale to stay, exhale to internally rotate. So we're only moving on that exhale. Inhale to stay, exhale to externally rotate. Inhale to stay and internally rotate on your exhale. From here, I'm going to exhale and I'm going to lift this leg just a little bit higher. Inhale to stay, exhale and lower it just a little bit lower. So I'm just coming a little bit lower than the height of my hip. Inhale to stay, exhale to lift. I'm still in that internal rotation. The leg is slightly back behind me so that I'm feeling that work in my glutes. Exhale and just lower that leg a little bit. Inhale to stay and exhale to lift. Inhale to stay, exhale to lower. And on this last one, we're going to take this leg up as high as you can without losing your alignment, you're still tilted, stacked, and rolled forward slightly with the leg back behind you a little bit. And let's go into internal and external rotation again. Inhale to stay, exhale to externally rotate this leg. Inhale to stay and internally rotate on an exhale. Inhale and stay, exhale and externally rotate. Inhale to stay, exhale and internally rotate. Inhale and exhale to externally rotate. Inhale to stay and exhale to internally rotate, which we will hold that right here. You'll inhale, and on an exhale, let this leg come down to the floor. Let your toes tap the floor, and exhale to come right back up. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, and then lift right back up. Beautiful. We're going to bend both knees, and we'll move on to the clam. Did that feel a little tiring through that outer hip? A lot of times people go, oh, yeah, that can be a little sore. So this is a great one. This is called the clam. This is going to get into that piriformis muscle, that one that travels horizontally in the hip. My hand is going to come onto my waist. My knees are bent. My heels are touching. And the bottom leg is completely on the floor. Sometimes students have to bring their heels a little closer to their hip. Sometimes the feet need to come a little bit further away. I'm going to do that same tilt, stack, and roll business. So I want to have a little curve in my low back. And again, for Martha, I would recommend coming into a little bit of a tuck position. I'm going to take this top hip and I'm going to pull this away. So I'm getting a little bit more space between the ribs and the pelvis, and then roll forward. Inhale to stay. Exhale when you're ready to engage your core, and you'll feel that underneath your hand. Let the heels press together, and this top knee is going to lift. Only come up as high as you're comfortable, and avoid the temptation to move through the hip and the ribs. It's just through the leg. Inhale to stay, exhale to lower. Inhale to stay, exhale to lift. Inhale and exhale. You might notice a little trembling through the body. That looks really great, Nancy. Inhale, exhale and lift. Inhale and stay, exhale and lower. Beautiful. Okay, lengthen both legs and let me let the dog out. There you go, babe. Okay. Now that we've turned on that outer hip, let's move on and just do a little quick Pilates session. So I'm going to take both legs and lengthen them away. In Pilates, you usually just think about having this top hand come to the floor, and that's what's helping you stabilize your body. So avoid the temptation to push this hand too heavy into the floor, but really challenge yourself to find that stability in through the core and the stabilization of the outer hip. The legs are nice and long. You're going to inhale to prepare. And on your exhale, engage your core and lift this top foot up above the height of the hip. Flatten out your foot and then return the foot down towards the bottom leg. Point your toe, exhale to lift. Flex your foot, inhale to come home. Exhale, point your toe and lift. Inhale and come home. Point your toe and lift on an exhale. Inhale and come home. Let's do a couple more of those. There's a nice fluidity in through that outer hip. Taking the toes up, lengthening that top leg, draw some little circles for me. Exhaling as you circle. Don't forget to breathe. You're holding on that core contraction, lengthening through that leg, and reverse the direction for 8 circles here. When you're ready, coming down for a staggered leg lift, you exhale to lift and then pull this bottom leg to meet it, and both legs come down. It's an exhale and an inhale. Exhale and an inhale. Again, avoid the temptation to push, push your hands into the floor to hold you in this position, but use that core stabilization. When you're ready, both legs will come up together on an exhale and an inhale. You'll be feeling that in through the outer hip to stabilize the legs in this position, but you'll also feel that in the obliques and a little bit here into that transverse abdominis too, as you're keeping that belly pulled in. So let's do 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good job. Okay, come on up. Let's go on the other side. So it's kind of fun. I'm not going to make you do it, but if you do this on your own, it's kind of fun to walk around your house a little bit, because you're going to feel that the right leg just feels very strong and very stable. And so let's do the same thing on the left side. How were those? Were they hard?
Yes, challenging.
Yeah, they're challenging. They sure are. Julie's being stoic today. Okay, same thing but different. Let's see if I can find a position where you can see. I think I need to go this way. No, this way. Okay. All right, so my body is as straight as a pencil, and then I'm going to bend this bottom knee so that the knee is about a 90-degree angle to my body. And if I were on a mat, that the shin would be parallel to the edge of the mat. My hand's going to go onto my waist. And I have my hand here so that I can feel any movement in my body as I do the exercises. I don't want my hip and my ribs to be involved. I just want my leg to move. And it also gives me a chance to connect with that 3D breath. So I'm going to tilt by taking my butt back, and then Martha is going to stay sort of more in a tuck position. And I'm going to stack by taking this top leg and pulling it away. So you can see I can get a little bit more length, but I'm keeping my ribs on the floor. There's a little space at my waistline. And then the last thing I'm going to do is roll forward so that I get a little bit more room in that SI joint. I'm going to inhale to prepare and exhale to engage the core. Shh. And I'm going to feel that tightness right underneath my hand. Inhale, exhale. Shh. Good. And one more time. Shh. And hold that core contraction. And then lengthening through this left leg, lift it up as high as your hip. I'm going to let the leg internally rotate a little bit. I'm going to pull the leg back behind me a little bit. And then I'm just going to hang out here for a moment. I didn't say this on the right side, but I'll see here. So I'm really waiting for the stabilizers to turn on. And it's something that happens inside your body that allows the leg to work in a more efficient way. So it's not a way of compensation, it's a way of true stabilization within that outer hip. And so sometimes what I'll find is the leg starts to vibrate a little bit. You can see it perhaps on me. This top leg is starting to just bounce a little bit. And that tells me that I'm ready. I'm going to inhale to start, exhale to externally rotate. And I'm not moving through my hip or my rib cage, just through the leg. Inhale to stay, exhale to internally rotate. Continue to lengthen through that leg, externally rotate on an exhale. Inhale to stay and internally rotate on an exhale. Inhale, exhale, shh, and externally rotate. Inhale to stay, shh, dig into that core stabilizer to move through that leg. Inhale to stay, exhale, and externally rotate. The leg is a little bit back behind me. Inhale to stay, exhale, and internally rotate. No movement through the ribs, no movement through the pelvis. Inhale to stay, exhale, and externally rotate. Inhale to stay and internally rotate. Feeling that stabilization on that outer hip. It's really challenging. Noticing if the leg is bouncing or vibrating a little bit. Exhale, engage your core and externally rotate. Inhale to stay and internally rotate. Hold that right here. We're going to exhale and lower just a little bit. Inhale to stay and exhale to lift a little bit. Always turning on that core stabilizer, and that's going to help turn on the deep stabilizers of this outer hip. Exhale and lower a little bit. Inhale, stay, exhale and lift a little bit. The leg is back behind you. If you're noticing that the thigh keeps moving forward, then your quadricep is dominant. We're trying to get that outer hip to work. Exhale and drop that leg down a little bit. Inhale and stay. And then go ahead and lift a little bit. Inhale, exhale, come down a little bit more. Inhale, and on your exhale, come up as high as you can without losing your alignment. And then externally rotate on an exhale. Inhale and stay. and internally rotate on that exhale. Can really see my leg is moving around a little bit. Exhale and externally rotate. Inhale and stay and internally rotate. When you're ready, exhale and externally rotate. Inhale and stay and internally rotate. From here, exhale, come all the way down towards the floor and tap the floor and then come right back up. Exhale, come right down to the floor and then right back up. One more time. I lied, one more time. Beautiful, nice. And bend your knees and go right into the clam. So you felt those, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes, Miss Wendy.
Painful.
So I'm going to tilt. So my butt's going to come back a little bit. I'm going to manufacture that low back curve. Stack, take this top hip and just pull it away from you. You're getting a little bit more room in your waist. And roll forward a little bit. This top leg will feel like it's coming away from your body. If you look at your knees, your left knee will be a little further away than the right knee. Exhale, engage your core. Go ahead and press your heels together and lift this top leg up without rolling back. Inhale and stay, exhale and come right back down. Inhale, exhale and lift. We're looking for a little tension right there in the center of the butt cheek on the left. Inhale to stay, exhale and lower. Inhale, exhale and lift. Inhale and stay, exhale and lower. Anybody notice the leg is kind of bouncing a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, Julie says, yeah, yep, good. That means you're turning on those core stabilizers. You can see it on mine too. Inhale and stay, exhale and lower. Go ahead and lengthen out those legs and let's do a little Pilates today for the outer hip. Okay, so with the setup for Pilates, we just want to have the ribs weighted to the floor. Ideally, you have a little space at that waistline and you feel length in this top leg. You're going to inhale to prepare, exhale to engage your core. You lift this top foot, flatten your foot and return. Point your toes, exhale and lift. Inhale, flatten your foot and lower. Point your toe, exhale and lift. Flatten your foot on your inhale and come down. We do about 8 of those. And there's no movement through the ribs. You look beautiful. Excellent job today. Good, good, good. So I've lost count. Let's just do 2 more. And then on the last one, you just point your toes and lift and you circle. Exhale to engage that core. And then reverse 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And it's a stagger. We're going to come down, lift, and lower. No need to come too high on this top leg. I think about my inner thighs joining each other rather than my ankles. Inner thigh, lift, lift, and lower. And play around with how much weight you're putting on your hand and see if you can't really find that stability in through the core and this outer hip. And on this last one, both legs will come up together and it'll be 8, 7, exhaling as you lift, lengthening through those legs. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful job. Nice work. Great. Let's see what time it is. 10:34. Good work. So I'd love to know how you felt about those.
It was really painful on this leg,
Okay.
both
And
lying
so was
on
it
and doing the exercises on it.
okay? So sometimes in order to find your limitations, you pass them, right?
Yeah,
So that's what Mark Twain said. So I don't know what's going on there, Martha. It could be something that maybe there's a little imbalance in the pelvis, or I don't know. What are your feelings about that?
I don't know. It's just, it's been there a long time and I've worked on it in different ways and haven't been able to resolve it yet. So.
Okay. Well, if you have a moment and you want to, let's see if we can do a little bit of manipulation for the tissue of the hip, and we'll do a little bit more and see if we can't get in there and loosen things up. And if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay for that.
Okay.
How about you, Miss Julie?
Good, good. I like seeing the picture of the muscle and
Oh, good.
I like seeing what we're working because then I know where I'm supposed to feel it.
Yeah.
And this side was much easier. Anyway, one side was much easier. And I think that's because this part got stronger. Or
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
part said, oh, we're going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Instead
that's
of-
what happens, right? So when you have
Yeah.
an imbalance in your body, one side is weaker, one side is stronger, and the longer you live with that, the stronger that stronger side gets, right?
And then as I
What
walk through my afternoon, I'll feel like I'm floating. There's
I
something about
know,
doing this hip work that when I walk, I feel like I'm floating.
I know, it's really cool. Yeah, it's that outer hip just kind of locks
Okay.
in place
Something
and it just
changes.
allows the legs to swing. It's really
Yeah.
cool. So you can see that in people, by the way, if they don't have good hip stabilization, they they sway a lot, like they get a lot of shake with those fries.
Yeah.
You can really see it. So when it's turned on, it just locks and the leg swings forward and back instead of going
Yeah.
side to side. The thing that I love about those is the length that I get on the side of my body, in between the ribs and the top of my hips. So sometimes I'll feel like I'm getting that muffin top, you know, you just kind of feel like there's a lot of extra flesh around your waist and you can actually pull that. So I love that technique for that reason. How about you, Miss Nancy? What did you notice?
It felt good. I think my left side was easier when I'm laying on my right. Was easier, but maybe it's because we already had done the right.
I don't know. It's a
Like-
mystery.
I agree with Julie. I really like to see that picture and relate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good to know. So if you want to spend just another minute, let's see if we can give Martha a little bit relief in that hip. So I'm going to use my round roller for this. This way. So this is one that we've done before together. I'm just going to see if I can come across. I'm going to position myself so that I have a side view. I'm just going to come up onto my roller and bring my hands back behind me. And I'm really just going to do a nice little passive gliding here on the back of my pelvis. So I did think, Martha, about doing this before we did the outer hip work.
Yeah.
Just thought, well, in the interest of time, we should be okay if we do upper back glide and shear and then go into the outer hip to do this rather than upper back glide and shear. And so we did upper back glide and shear and it seemed like it moved you in the wrong direction. Does that make sense? Oh, it says my internet is unstable. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to let my knees travel a little bit over to the camera, which for me is going to be the left. You can go any way you want to. And now I'm on my SI. And I'm going to hang out here just for a second. I'm going to bend my left elbow and move my hands over to my thighs. And I'm moving really that outer, it's called the deep side hip. And you might notice that there's a place when you roll over it, it gets a little tight and sticky. So I'm just going to go a little smaller and smaller until I stop. And I'm going to let this left knee drop towards the floor and come back up. That's it, Martha. That looks great. Just kind of hang out here for a moment. And now, Martha, you're not, and Julie, you're not facing me, which is fine. You'll totally be able to do this. Just move a little bit more towards that side so that the side of the pelvis is against the roller. The side of your pelvis is against the roller. Yep, yep, yep. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Keep going, Martha. Yep, 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 yep. Good. And then just do the same thing. You're just going to move against the roller so that the roller's moving up and down. So, yep, there you go. You got it, Martha. Good. So I'm on the side of my pelvis. So if Julie remembers what that image was, right? She's going to go, oh, we're rolling right over that tensor fasciae lata, right over. If you move back a little bit, you'll be on the gluteus maximus, right? So you could explore where it feels a little tight and sticky, because this could be one of the areas where that IT band is kind of locked down. So you could come a little bit further forward, or you could roll a little bit further back, you know, wherever you feel. Go smaller and smaller until you stop. And then what we do, and that's perfect positioning, Martha, go ahead and bend your bottom knee and then straighten out that bottom leg. And that's your shear, just bend and straighten.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. And hold your core in a little bit, so you're just stabilizing your body there. Great, and let's have you come on up and let's do the same thing on the other side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move myself around. So I'm just gonna take all my equipment and go the other way. And I'm gonna come back up onto my roller because I wanna keep facing the camera. All right, so now I'm gonna come into that tailbone. Hi, Teak. That tailbone glide. And I'm gonna let my knees come over towards the camera. Hi, baby. And then I'm gonna hang on. Okay, thank you so much. I'm gonna bend my bottom elbow and I'm just gonna come over a little bit more into that deep side hip. Thank. Okay, cool. And again, I'm in that deep side hip. So as I roll over that, I do actually feel a little tenderness in there. So there's my barrier. I'm just gonna go smaller and smaller until I stop. Not on the pain, but just right near it. The bottom knee drops to the floor and lifts. A little bit of core engagement here. Good, and then just hang out and wait. I'm gonna take myself over even more so that the side of my pelvis is against the roller. I know.
Come on, Mom, you're pretty done by now.
I think she wants to have lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna move against the roller. My bottom knee is gonna do the work, and this is gonna be my shear. Okay. Now, while I'm here, I'm gonna actually pick my hip up and I'm gonna move the roller a little bit lower. So now it's on the top of that IT band. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Smaller and smaller until I stop, and then I could do that same kind of shear technique. Hold your body still, and we're going to put pressure on the forearm. And I just move the roller so that it's on the side of my leg above my knee. You've got to have good upper body strength to hold you here. And then the shear technique is bending and straightening. And then I just come back down onto the floor. Go see Bob. And we didn't do that on the other side, but you see what I did, right? I just moved the roller to the top of my hip and then just down above my knee and do it there. And then what I would do is just use my hands. So I would just take my hand on the outer thigh and I just move that fluid. Okay. Does that make sense, Martha?
Yeah, that felt good.
So you'll want to do that same thing.
Yeah.
On the other side. And I didn't do that because you were facing away from us, which is totally fine. But all we did was come with the roller just to the upper portion of that IT band. Smaller and smaller until I stop, bend and straighten. And we know that the IT band goes all the way down the leg to the knee. So then I just picked my hip up and pushed the roller down and did the same thing just above my knee. Yep, there you go. And then the shear technique is the bending and straightening. And it's interesting when you start to move the knee, how much tension you'll feel on that IT band in one area or another. So for me, it's very tight right here.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to slip my hip off, right? And then I'm just going to use my hands. So
There
if you forget which way to go, I remember we always go up the inner thigh and down the back of the leg. So consider that the outer thigh is the down, like the back of the leg is down. And you can even take your fingers to the back of your leg at the hamstring and push. So that'll give you something else to work with. And maybe it'll just give you a little bit more fluid, a little more juice in through the hips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Any questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms? Today's the day.
Oh, but I needed that also, man.
Okay, good. Okay, good to know. Well, I'm going to make another video for us, and it'll just be me going through these moves, and I'll do both upper back glide and shear for people that are interested in that. If you don't think upper back glide and shear is going to give you the juice that you need through the hip, then I'll put that hip thing in. Okay, so you'll have both of those options. You could do one or the other, or certainly both. Capiche?
Happy.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And let me
everybody.
know if you have any questions.
Good to
Okay?
see you, Julie.
Good to see you too, Nancy.
We need to just have tea.
Yeah.
Maybe next week afterward, right? We just-
Yeah,
You
let's
want
do
to?
tea.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
I would love it. Okay, let's plan on it. Okay, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.